As always, just listen to your body. If anything feels painful, that's a sign to back off a little bit or kind of, skip whatever we're doing. And I'll try to offer lots of modifications for both the mat and the chair. So we'll get started in a comfortable seat. If you're on the mat, you can use a prop like a block or a blanket or a pillow or anything you'd like. And you can slide it under your hips, and you can either sit kneeling in Hero's Pose, Virasana, with hips to heels, and you can slide that block under. You could skip the block if you're feeling pretty warm. Same goes for easy pose with the legs crossed. So you can sit with your seat on the ground, or you can slide a prop under your hips. Sometimes that's a little more comfortable for those of us who don't sit on the ground very often. And if you're in the chair, then you will just plant your feet and sit up nice and tall. And so let's just begin by shifting around, getting comfortable in the seat, and then settling in, and start to find stillness. You might start to soften your gaze or close your eyes if you feel comfortable. And really sit back in your seat. Allow your spine to grow nice and tall. Notice the connection between your seat and the floor beneath you, feeling really grounded, really supported by the mat or the chair beneath you. And then from there, growing upward, crown of the head reaches up toward the ceiling, feeling for a sense of uprightness, but also inviting some ease into the pose, softening your shoulders away from the ears, softening the face muscles, allowing the eyes to sink back in the sockets, unclenching your jaw, removing your tongue from the roof of your mouth. And then maybe even inviting a bit of softness into the belly muscles. So noticing the areas of the body that don't have to be holding on so tightly, and then seeing if you can release. And we'll just take this moment at the beginning of class to check in with ourselves, noticing how we're feeling physically, mentally, energetically, just taking inventory, getting curious, without any judgment, just observing. And once you've taken note of your starting place today, begin to turn the attention a little bit more inward, and seeing if you can start to just notice how the breath feels, noticing the quality of it, whether your breath is jagged or smooth or easy, or if there's resistance today. And however it feels right now, just being okay with that. And then we'll start to see if we can add depth to each inhale through the nose, and length to each exhale through the nose. As we deepen and lengthen each inhale and exhale, seeing if we can smooth out the transitions between the breaths. And we'll start to deepen the breath even more, creating a slight constriction at the back of the throat, seeing if we can connect to our Ujjayi pranayama. So it should kind of feel like you're trying to fog up a mirror with the lips sealed. And this breath should be really audible. It should make a sound. And we'll see if we can keep this Ujjayi breath really strong, really consistent and steady throughout the rest of class. So regardless of what posture we're in, whether it's easy or hard, or regardless of the thoughts that might pop into our heads about what we're gonna do after class or eat for dinner and things like that, just seeing if we can over and over again return to the breath, coming back to this moment on our mats or in our chairs, and returning to physical sensation. So what it feels like to be in our bodies right now. All together, we'll take a deep inhale through the nose, fill up all the way to the top. Open your mouth, let it go. Start to flutter your eyes open, finding a soft gaze. Good, and then from here, we're gonna bring both of our hands to the ground, connecting our fingertips down on the mat next to us, or if you're in the chair, on the sides of the chair. And we're just gonna start making some really slow, gentle neck circles. So they can be pretty small to begin with. moving in one direction, noticing any tension in the neck. And if you feel anything particularly tight, as long as it doesn't hurt, you can hang out there for a moment, breathing. Seeing if you can invite a little bit of softness into whatever areas feel tense. And staying connected to the breath with each movement. Good, and then we'll go ahead and switch directions. Moving slowly. Just noticing how your neck feels today. Every day it's going to feel a little bit different. Good, and then just bringing your head back up to neutral. All right, so from here, we're gonna do some side stretches. So plant your right fingertips down on the ground or on the mat next to you, and then reach up and over through the left arm, lengthening through the left side body, keeping that left hip really grounded down on the ground or the mat or the chair rather. Good, take another inhale and reach longer. And on the exhale, return to center. Good, place the left fingertips down this time. Other side, reaching up and over through right. Keeping your hips really heavy on the ground as you inhale. Reach, lengthen through the whole side of your body from fingertips to hips. Good, exhale, coming back up through center. All right, from here, we're just gonna switch the cross of the legs if your legs are crossed, just to even things out. Cool, and then we're gonna inhale, reach both arms up overhead. Find a really nice stretch. Keep reaching through the fingertips. See if you can relax your shoulders away from the ears as you reach, but keep getting longer through both sides of your body. Good, and then relax a little bit, but keep the arms reaching up. Now we're gonna grab the opposite elbows. Good, so cup your elbows in your hands and then kind of pull on the elbows. This should feel like a bit of a shoulder stretch. You might have to like wiggle around and feel into it. It feels a little different for everybody, I think, but it's kind of like a nice opener across the chest, the collarbones. You might even start to look up a little bit, kind of opening up through the chest even more, finding a slight back bend in your upper back. Good, stay for one more inhale, tug a little bit more on the elbows. And then on the exhale, hands come back to the sides of your hips. All right, so from here, inhale, reach up once more. On your exhale, cactus your arms down like you're doing a pull-up, so really strong, pull them down. Beautiful, take an inhale here, open up through the chest. And then on your exhale, press your palms and forearms together. Slight curl of the spine like you're doing cat pose. Keep pressing. Good, on the inhale, open back up, cactus arms. Maybe even look up a bit. And then for the full duration of the exhale, moving slowly, pressing the palms back together. Good, hold that for a moment, pressing hands and forearms together. Good, and then inhale, open back up. So let's do 3 more of these on our own breath, using the full inhales to open up. And then when it's time to exhale, closing things off, curling your spine slightly, really pressing the palms and the forearms together. Good, 2 more, inhale. And then on your exhale. Good, one more cycle of breath, take your time. Beautiful, and then from here, just bring your hands to your heart, relax your shoulders. Take a moment. All right, so we're gonna, if you're sitting up on a block or anything, you can move it now, and we're gonna make our way to our backs. So there's a lot of ways to do that. If you wanna start to engage the core and your low back is not an issue right now, then you could play with keeping your hands at your heart where they were, engaging your low belly muscles, keeping your feet planted about hip distance on the ground with the knees bent, slowly lowering down inch by inch. Otherwise, you can use your arms behind you for support. And of course, if you're in the chair, stay there, but keep your feet planted firmly on the ground. We're gonna make our way all the way to the back. Okay, I extended my legs, but don't do that yet. So keep your feet planted about hip distance. We're gonna start by bringing our right knee to our chest, and then just making some nice circles with that knee in one direction. Just lubricating the hip joint, warming it up. For so many of us, we're just sitting down all day at a desk or something like that. And so this is a really nice way to just wake things up. And if you were in the chair, it would be basically the same thing, just keeping your left foot planted and making circles with the right knee. And you can go as wide as feels good to you. It's really going to be different for each side and for each person. And then switch directions when you're ready. And if you lost the breath, see if you can come back to it. Good, and then start to find stillness. All right, keeping that left foot planted, extend the right leg. I forgot to mention, if you'd like a little more support here and you can't quite reach the back of your leg with your hands, you can grab a towel or a t-shirt or anything like a strap and bring it around the leg to extend your hands a little bit. Otherwise, hands come behind the knee with the left foot still planted, and we're just gonna find a nice stretch in the hamstring here. We're gonna flex the toes toward our nose and then point them. Good, inhale to flex and exhale to point. Option to keep the left foot planted or to extend that leg long. If you keep the leg, or if you extend the leg long, pay attention to your low back. If there's any pinching, back off, and keep that left thigh really engaged and the left foot flexed, okay? Keep going, keep breathing. If you're in the chair, it would look a little different. You're gonna dig your right heel into the ground, and then from there you can point and flex your foot. You're keeping the left foot planted, and if you want to add intensity, you could start to fold your chest and your chin toward that right shin. You might even keep the foot flexed there. It might be easier. And of course, if anything feels particularly good, you can just hang out there and breathe with the foot flexed or pointed. One more full cycle of breath wherever you are. All right, and then from here, keeping the left leg really engaged if it's extended on the ground, we're gonna squeeze our right knee toward our right armpit. Okay, so we're not quite squeezing it into our chest, we're actually bringing it to our armpit. You can stay right here. I know it's the beginning of class. If you want to go a little deeper and you're feeling warm enough, you could play with half happy baby pose. So proceed with caution. You'll grab the outside of your right foot, so the pinky edge, and then you would pull your right knee towards your armpit. This is a really deep stretch, so if you're not there right now, that's fine. I've been practicing today, so that's why I'm there right now. But just definitely take that slow. And if you're in the chair, you're really just hugging this knee in towards your right armpit, same thing. If you're feeling open, you could play with the half happy baby, but I would use both feet, or both hands rather, to pull that knee towards your armpits. And then just breathe for a moment here. Breathe into any sensation. Beautiful, gently release whatever grip you have. Plant both feet on the ground, hip distance. Bring your feet wide, your knees knocked together. Take a moment with one hand to the heart, one hand to the belly. This is our resting pose. If you're in the chair, both feet plant, the knees could knock together. You can also bring a hand to heart, hand to belly. And we're just gonna take a moment to pause, reconnect to the breath, notice what's going on. Notice the difference in that right side of the body compared to the left. And this pose is really nice with the knees knocked together. It's good for really relaxing the pelvic floor muscles, the low back, the hips. So it can be really restorative when things are feeling intense. Good, now bring your feet back to hip distance. We're gonna come into the other side. So we'll start by catching the left knee in our hands and then keeping that right foot planted on the ground as we make gentle, slow circles with that knee, maybe starting small. and then gradually getting bigger if that feels comfortable. And I really like to notice how this side feels compared to the other. Without judgment, just going, okay, this side feels a little bit tighter than the other one. That's interesting. Good, and if you're in the chair, it's the same thing. Good. One more cycle of breath in this direction. And then you can switch sides, go the other direction rather, not sides, but switch the direction of the circle. And if you're in the chair, we're just lubricating the hip joint. One more cycle of breath here. Really nice. All right, so now we're gonna find that leg extension. Left leg goes long. You can keep the right foot planted, or again, if your low back doesn't feel pinched at all, and you can always back off if it does, you could start to lengthen the other leg long too. Just make sure that you keep the right thigh engaged and the right foot flexed to protect everything. And then the hands come behind the left knee, or again, if you've got like a towel or something to extend. And then we're gonna flex the foot, point that left foot. Flex left foot, point left foot. And if anything feels particularly good, by all means, hang out there. Breathe into the sensation. Like for me right now, flexing and actually like turning my foot out to the left a little bit, that feels really interesting. So I'm gonna stay there and I'm gonna breathe. And if you're in the chair, this would look a little different. It's good to scoot forward a little bit so your butt's like on the edge of the seat, and then you would dig your left heel and you can flex and point from that position. You can also hold it and then fold, keeping a flat spine. And we'll stay here, keep it going. One more cycle of breath, let's say. Beautiful. And then we're gonna bring that left knee toward the left armpit. So coming into that modified half happy baby pose. Again, you can always bend the right knee and plant it. If not, keep the right leg really engaged. You're gonna squeeze the left knee toward the left armpit. And then if you wanna play with half happy baby, just move really slow, because again, it's super intense. You would grab the that pinky edge of the left foot with your left hand and gently pull it down. I like to even use my right hand if I'm on the mat to press the other leg down, that right hip area, right thigh area down to the ground, keeping things stable, breathing into sensation. If it hurts, back off. You can always try it later when you're a little more warm. And then the chair is gonna look similar, but really make sure you're supporting yourself with both hands, because you're gonna keep the right foot planted, no matter what variation you find here. One more full cycle of breath, wherever you are. All right, and then gently release the foot. If you're in the chair, both feet plant. If you're on the ground, the feet plant hip distance. And then we'll bring the feet wide, knees knock in, one hand to heart, one hand to belly, just for one cycle of breath to reconnect. Notice what's going on in both sides of our body now. All right, feet return to hip distance. So this is kind of a fun transition. Please do not feel pressured to do all the options here. Option one, the most gentle option is gonna be, we're gonna make our way to a seat. So you would just use your arms and your hands to press yourself up gently. Option two is to rock and roll to a seat. Hands come behind the knees. You start to rock and roll along the spine. See if you can use your core, keep it engaged to protect everything so you're not just like flying all over the place. And then option three, if you're feeling like you want a challenge and your body feels up for it, you can rock and roll all the way to chair pose. Okay, so you would stand up, you'd move your knees behind your hips. As I said, no pressure to do this, but if you want more fire, this is here for you. And so wherever you are, whether you're seated, whether you're in chair pose, whether you're sitting in a chair with your feet planted, we're gonna do some wrist exercises. So, we've done this before. We're gonna start by extending our hands, spreading the fingers really wide. And then what we're gonna do is flick imaginary water droplets off of our fingertips. You can move fast here, or you can move slowly, really up to you. Just keep it going, and I think pretty much immediately, at least I always feel this pretty much immediately because it's really quite intense on the forearms, the hands, the wrists, right? So let's just see if we can breathe through this. Keep it going for 3, 2, 1. Okay, release. Clasp your hands. Make some gentle wrist circles. You're gonna try and keep the forearms kind of close together as you do this. And this is really nice if you type all day, like I know many of us do. Switch directions. All right. If you were up in a chair, you'd slowly lower to a seat. If you're in the physical chair, you'll just keep your feet nice and planted, hands come to the lap. Otherwise, we're seated now on the mat. We are going to roll forward, coming to a tabletop if you're on the mat. And we're gonna find, first of all, we're gonna set ourselves up for success here. So look at your hands, spread your fingers as wide as they'll go, and then really grip the mat with your hands like you're trying to pick it up off the ground. Keep your hands really active like this. If you feel any pain in the wrists, that's really common. What you can do is you could try coming onto the fists, or you could even come onto your forearms if that's not helping, okay? But oftentimes just gripping the mat like that rather, is really helpful. So keeping things active. And then your toes can be tucked or untucked. If your knees are bothering you, you can grab a blanket. Pillow might be a little too much, but a blanket, you could fold up your mat and create a little bit of a cushion for your knees. That can be nice. And then wherever you are, you're gonna inhale, drop your belly, lift your heart, spread collarbones for cow. And then exhale, round and curl the spine, tuck your chin, press your hands or your fists or your forearms away on the mat. And then just continue to move through a couple more cat cows. You can feel free to add on, moving hips side to side, making circles with your torso. So kind of just, again, noticing what feels good, really paying attention to your body. And if you're in the chair, we're doing the same movements. You'll scoot to the edge, sit up tall. You'll start with cat, reaching forward, curling and rounding the spine, tucking the chin. And then cow, inhale, really draw your chest forward, pulling the arms back, and then keep moving through these motions. And this is a nice one to really focus on linking each breath to each movement. So you inhale as you open up the chest, and you do a deep exhale as you round and curl the spine. Good, let's do 2 more cycles of breath, because I really love cat-cow. Try to do this every morning, because I swear it sets me up for a better day. Good, and once you're finished up, find that neutral spine, so zipping your belly button in toward the spine, and then just gazing between the hands. And then we're gonna come into a forearm plank. There are lots of options here, okay? So if you're on the mat, you're gonna bring your forearms down. Your elbows should fall right underneath the shoulders, and then your palms should be flat on the ground and kind of shoot straight out from the elbows. So everything is in line. And then you can, so you can keep your knees down. Just make sure that your butt is tucked under, so you're really engaging your core here. So that's an option. If you want more fire, you can tuck your toes and lift the knees, coming into a true forearm plank, gazing down between the thumbs, keeping the low belly zipped in, breathing. If you're in the chair, it's gonna look similarly, but we're positioned upward. So you're gonna have your forearms out in front of you. You're gonna find a slight cat position, really zipping your navel in towards your spine, pressing your forearms down on the imaginary floor, breathing. Let's stay for 3, for 2, and 1. Drop your knees if they're not down already. And then we're gonna make our way to child's pose. So if you're on the ground, You could keep the knees together, drape your belly over your thighs, and then the head comes down to the ground. Your arms can rest by your sides. Alternatively, you can bring the knees wide, toes touch, hips sink toward the heels, arms reach out long. Really just let your chest melt and your belly hang down toward the mat, forehead pressing down on the ground or making a pillow with your hands. You can close the eyes or soften the gaze there. Find a couple breaths. If you're in a chair, you'll bring your elbows to your knees. You'll keep your feet planted and you'll create a little cushion with your hands for your chin. Maybe finding a bit of a neck stretch. Closing your eyes, taking a moment here. Finding that slow, steady breath if you lost it, and noticing if your mind wandered off. And then knowing that that's very normal, we all do it, and just bringing it back to the breath, back to what you're doing on your mat or in the chair right now. Awesome. All right, if you're sitting in a chair, you'll come up, find a nice tall spine, and if you're in child's pose, just start to press yourself up, coming onto the knees. We are gonna just make our way to standing, so move slowly because we're coming from like all the way down to all the way up. I like to give myself an assist on like a piece of furniture nearby or something, so you could plant one foot and then the other. Coming up, we're just gonna take a moment here to orient ourselves. So often we like stand and we just don't even think about what our body is doing. So our arms are gonna be by our sides. Our palms are gonna come forward. Where our head is gonna stack over our shoulders and the shoulders stack over the hips. And then really feel your feet connect through each corner of your feet. They're really touching down, they're really grounding down. You could even lift up your toes for a moment and then set them back down. Really notice how that feels. I like to soften my gaze or close my eyes here and just shift side to side, really feeling what it's like to be standing here. Breathing, shoulders relaxing away from the ears. Noticing again which muscles are working really hard right now that don't need to be. So usually it's the jaw or the eyebrows or the eyes. Just noticing. Good. If your eyes were soft or closed, you're going to want to refocus on something that's not moving because we're going to do a little bit of balancing. If you're in the chair, the feet are really planted in your version of mountain pose here. We're going to come into tree. So there's a million options for tree. We're gonna start with tripod here. So you're gonna just bring your right foot to your left ankle and just notice how that feels. Your hands can stay where they are or you can bring them to your heart. And then you're welcome to stay right here. If you're in the chair, this is gonna look like hands to heart, lifting that right foot up off the ground, connecting your left foot to the ground. Good, the right foot might slide up to your calf. And if you feel great there and you want more, I usually have to use my right hand to do this. You could bring your right foot to the inner thigh. Just avoid the knee if you're gonna do that. And then from here, you could extend your arms. You could sway a little if you wanna challenge yourself. I usually fall over when I do that. And it's good to find a little humor in yoga. It doesn't have to be so serious. And just breathe here. Good, one more full cycle of breath. Awesome. Regardless of chair or mat, slowly lower the right foot down. Take a moment to pause here with the hands pressing into each other. Just feeling good. And then this time we're gonna really pick up the toes on that right foot, set them down, really ground down through that right foot, making sure you're stable and secure. And then we'll do the same thing. So finding arms can be, by your sides or at your heart, depending on what you did on the other side. I like to even it out. And then you'll bring that tripod so the left foot comes to the right ankle. Keeping a nice tall spine, crown of head coming up, shoulders relaxed. And then maybe sliding the foot to the calf. Good, and then from there you could always bring it up to the thigh. And again, many options for the arms, right? And if I'm feeling a little crazy, sometimes I'll like try to make myself lose balance on purpose. And if you're in the chair, you're just lifting that left foot up off the ground, keeping the right foot planted. We'll find one more full cycle of breath. Hopefully that right leg is starting to feel it a little bit. Beautiful. Gently set both feet down. And then recenter in mountain pose, Tadasana. Inhale, reach both arms all the way up. Gaze up at your hands, fill up all the way with air. On the exhale, bring your hands to heart center, press your palms together. Beautiful. Okay, so from here, we're just gonna find our way back down to a seat. If you wanna challenge yourself here, you can come into a chair pose, sinking your hips past your knees and lowering all the way down, just keeping the knees back, keeping the low belly engaged. Otherwise, make your way down in whatever way makes the most sense. One knee down, then the other. All right, so we're gonna come onto our seats and then extend both legs out long. And if this kind of bugs your low back in this position, you can sit up on a pillow here or a blanket or something like that and keep a micro bend in your knees. Okay? We're gonna come into something called Marichyasana. I always say that wrong, so I hope I'm saying it right this time. So we're gonna bring, we're gonna bring our right knee, we're gonna bend it. That was hard to say. We're gonna plant the right foot on the ground inside of the left knee. And then I want you to flex your left foot if you can. So the right knee is pointing straight up. From here, we're gonna bring our right hand down behind our low back so we can lengthen our spine even more. And then take an inhale, reach up through the left arm. On the exhale, turn and twist over to the right, wrapping your left hand around this right knee, okay? So you're just hugging it in, and you should feel a bit of a stretch in the outer right hip. If you're not really feeling it and you think you might want to try to go deeper, what you can do is cross your right leg over the left leg. Sometimes that helps. Keeping the spine nice and tall as you do this. If you're in the chair, it looks similar with the feet planted. Left arm reaches up, right hand is supporting behind you. On the exhale, just turn and twist, bringing the left hand to the outside of the right knee. And if you want to take it deeper, same thing, you cross the right leg over the left. You should feel this primarily in the outer right hip and a bit of a twist, right? And then use the inhales to find more length up, and your exhales to twist and soften through the belly. Good, one more inhale. And an exhale. Good, we're gonna find, without moving anything yet, okay, so we are gonna find figure 4 in a seat. What you're gonna do is you're gonna, I guess you could start, so if your foot's crossed, let's see if we can make this a smooth transition. We're gonna start to bend this left leg and then plant the left leg on the ground. And you're gonna want your right leg, your right ankle, to cross over the left upper thigh, the front of it. And so hands are gonna be behind your back, and you're gonna find nice length in your spine. And then keep the right foot flexed. Now this is super intense on the hips. If it feels too intense, options are you can scoot the left foot out, so kind of lessen the bend in this left foot, or you can just come onto your back for that figure 4 that we've practiced before, where you're same shape, right? Right ankle crossed over left thigh, but you're reaching through and you're controlling the stretch with your hands and your arms, okay? I just like the seated one because it takes care of some of the stuff like for you. You don't have to do much, but just be in this shape, okay? And then in the chair, it's the same thing, but we're just sitting down in a chair. So you're crossing the right ankle over the left thigh. And for both mat and chair, it can be really nice to do like some wiggling side to side in the hips. Really, really gentle, small movements. Sometimes I feel like that opens things up a little more, and you should be feeling this kind of in the outer hips. Again, no pain should be present here, just breathing through sensation. I know it's a really deep hip stretch. And if you want more intensity, folding your chest closer to the right shin. Good. And then we're really gently going to uncross the ankle, planting both feet on the ground in both the chair and the mat. And then we're going to go ahead and extend the legs on the mat, keeping the feet planted in the chair, finding mariachas. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm not going to try that again. I told you I'd mess it up. We're going to plant the left foot down on the inside of the right thigh, coming into this extended leg twist. So we're going to find length through the spine, bringing our left hand behind us to sit up nice and tall. Inhale, reach up through the right arm. Exhale, turn and twist over to the left, just hugging your thigh and your knee kind of closer to your torso, maintaining the nice tall spine, feeling it in the outer hip, hopefully, and then keeping that right foot engaged and flexed. And again, if you want more, crossing the left foot over the right thigh. Same option in the chair. Feet planted, support with the left hand. Inhale up through the right. Exhale, turn and twist to the left. The right hand comes to the outside of the left thigh. Yeah, and then option to cross the left leg over the right. Just breathing, keep lengthening up, and then keep softening into the twist. Good. On your next inhale, slowly unwind, come forward, uncross if there's anything, or I guess you could keep it. We're going to transition to the seated figure 4. So you're going to just plant that right foot, and each side is going to feel very different, especially with the hips. You'll cross the left ankle over the right thigh, and then to back off a little bit, you can straighten out that right leg a little bit. And you could also come onto your back for a traditional figure 4, threading the needle, pressing against the left leg with the left elbow. And if you're in the seat, just really being gentle with yourself and using your hands to control how deep you go behind you. And if you're in the chair, same thing, right foot stays planted, cross the left leg over that thigh, and then you control how deep you go based on how far you fold forward. And I encourage you to explore, right, wherever you are, whatever variation you took of figure 4, maybe doing a little bit of wiggling side to side. If you're on your back, sometimes this can be a really nice low back massage, and it can help to warm things up and open up the hips a bit more. I'm just gonna check the time real quick. Okay, great. And then wherever you are, undo, unwind. If you're on your back, you can actually stay there. If you're not on your back, plant your feet, engage your core, slowly lower down. If you're in the chair, feet are planted, hands are resting on the lap. So we are going to come into bridge pose. We're going to plant the feet hip distance, the knees point straight up. If you're on the mat, that's going to be how you start it out. There are 2 options here for you. You can come into regular bridge. So you press down through the feet, lifting up the hips, using your legs and your feet to really lift the hips up higher, keeping the back of your neck really long on the mat. So no looking side to side or crunching anything. Just looking kind of straight up and a little forward. Pressing down through the hands, or you could roll your shoulders underneath and clasp your hands. Option 2 is restorative bridge. If you have a prop like a block, you can slide it on the lowest or the medium setting under your sacrum and then rest there. It can be really nice because you don't have to work. You really just let the front part of your body open up on its own. And it's in the name, right? It's very restorative. One of my favorite poses. And then if you are in the chair, you're going to find airplane arms, so sitting forward in your chair, feet are nice and planted. reaching the arms behind you, palms up, opening up through the heart. Option to grab onto the sides of your, or the back of your chair rather, and really open up across the collarbones, maybe look up. Finding a nice stretch, a nice back opener, or heart opener rather. Good, if you're on the mat, you can very slowly lower down. And then bring your feet wide as the edges of your mat, and let the knees knock together. And then bring your arms by your sides. If you're in the chair, you're gonna bring your spine back to neutral, sitting up tall. And you're gonna bring your feet wide as well and let the knees knock together. And we're gonna do what I like to call windshield wiper legs. So you're gonna just let the legs go side to side, keeping your feet as wide as the mat. So not letting them move, but just letting knees knock left, right, and arms are by your sides to help everything else stay nice and controlled. So keep that going for another breath or two. In the chair is gonna be pretty much the same. It helps to sit on the edge of it. More kind of hip opening up here. Okay, good. And then if you would like, you can keep with the windshield wiper legs, or keeping your feet as wide as the mat, let the knees knock together, and then bring both knees over to the right. This is called pinwheel, and you can let them rest there. So this should feel like a nice stretch in the front, kind of hip flexor area on the left leg. Both knees are falling to the right. If you want to intensify this, you can bring the right foot to the top of the left kind of thigh area for a little added weight, and it's even more of a quad hip flexor stretch. You could even turn your head over to the left, gently gaze over to the left to invite a bit of a twist. So kind of anywhere that works for you along those different variations. And if you're in the chair, just keep gently with the breath moving side to side. If you're on the ground and you took a moment to pause and pinwheel over to the right, then come back up to neutral to center, knees knock together, feet go as wide as the mat, and then we'll come into the other side. Both knees fall to the left, feeling a nice stretch along the right quad this time, and the right hip flexor, the front part of the hip. Allowing belly muscles to relax a little bit here, allowing the shoulders to be super heavy. If you're in the chair, you can pause if you had enough of the windshield wiper legs and take a moment to breathe. And then maybe you add weight, bringing the left foot on top of the right thigh in this pose. Maybe turning your head over to the right to add a bit of a twist in pinwheel. Beautiful, very gently, if you're in pinwheel, undoing what we just did, releasing the foot, bringing the knees back up, letting knees knock together, feet wide. And then from here, we're gonna make our way to restorative Supta Baddha Konasana, so butterfly pose, or you can come straight into Shavasana if you've had enough. So for Supta Baddha Konasana, you're gonna wanna grab your two pillows or props or whatever you have with you. And you're gonna be on the mat here, letting your head and your upper body rest. If you're in the chair for this pose, and you can make your way down to your mat for this, it can be really nice with the support under your knees. So prop up your knees with the pillows, bring the soles of the feet to touch, the knees go wide, and then here I usually like to have one hand on my heart and one hand on my belly. But you can also bring your arms out by your sides, taking up space. And if this pose is not really your jam, then you can just extend your arms and legs out long, coming into a traditional Shavasana pose. And if you're sitting in a chair, you can either keep your feet planted, find a tall spine, hands in the lap, or you could fold over the legs, kind of draping down over, letting the head hang heavy. So we're really just coming into our final resting pose. You can stay here in Supta Baddha Konasana if this feels good for you, and if not, you can make your way to Shavasana. And if one hand is on your belly, you might notice the rise and fall of your belly with each breath. You might feel your heartbeat under your palm. Start to soften your gaze, maybe close the eyes, allowing your head to sink back into the ground if you're on the mat. Allowing the breath to become easy wherever you are. Starting to soften the muscles that don't need to be working right now. If you're on the ground, it should be none of them. Really going slack. Releasing everything. Fully surrender. Nothing to do, nowhere to be. Shavasana. If you'd like to stay in this final resting pose, you are welcome to do so. There's no need to get up. And if it's time for you to make your way back up, then you can just begin by deepening the breath. Deepening the inhales and exhales through your nose. And beginning to make small movements with fingers, with toes, waking up the body. If you're in Supta Baddha Konasana, you'll bring your hands to the outsides of your knees and gently close them together like a book. Good, and then if you're on the mat, you're gonna just nice and easy, bring your knees in towards your chest, give them a squeeze for a moment, and then gently roll over to either side, taking a moment to pause, keeping the eyes closed, reconnecting. Noticing any difference in your body and your mind since the beginning of class. And really honoring your body, your breath, and this practice. Using your top arm, begin to press yourself up to a comfortable seat. If you're on the mat, if you're in the chair, feet plant, hands come to the lap, eyes stay closed. Sitting up nice and tall when you get there. Take an inhale, reach both arms up overhead, find a stretch, fill up all the way with air. Exhale, hands to heart center, press your palms together. Thumbs meet at the space between your brows. Thank you for sharing your practice. Namaste.